Welcome to season 2 of the Happy Sensory Corner podcast. At Mentability, we want to help everyone, especially when they feel vulnerable, to feel happier, more comfortable in their own skin, more confident, so that we can all journey together through life more happily. And to do that, we stimulate the brain's self-healing mechanisms with short hands-on activities that you can do at home that are based on the neuroscience field of environmental enrichment. As our brains grow stronger and healthier, all of us benefit. And so we are experts in boosting brain development, but we are not experts in everything. For example, we're not experts in what you eat, physical activity, advocacy, education, job training, recreation, travel, caregiver support. And so today, I'm excited to introduce you to Jason Dietrich. Jason is a communications specialist at Science Systems and Applications, Inc., and he has an incredible journey to share with us. Diagnosed with hyperlexia, which is a form of autism at a young age, Jason faced many challenges in his academic life. However, he discovered his passion for STEM education, which transformed his life in extraordinary ways. And today, Jason is not only an advocate for critical thinking, problem solving, and idea exchange in STEM, but also a mentor and a role model for many. And he's here to share his story, his insights on turning perceived disabilities into superpowers, and his work on sensory inclusion and STEM education. Jason, thank you for being on our podcast.
Kim and Claudia, it's great to be here. It's an honor to be on your podcast. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
And we are also here with Claudia Pomares, the creator of Sensory Enrichment Therapies. She's the Chief Science Officer and our brain development expert at Mentability. And I'm your host, Kim Pomares, CEO at Mentability. And for those of you who are paying attention, yes, I have the same family name as Claudia, and that's because she is my mom. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, good team, aren't we?
Very good team.
So, Jason, what's your why? What's your story? How I like to understand the journey a little bit, and it's interesting for me to ask that because your journey is essentially what you're here to share. And so it feels funny for me to ask, hey, let's start with your journey because your journey is what I want to hear about. And I think this is all the learnings from your journey is what is going to be filled with golden nuggets for our audience. And so, how far back do you want to go with your journey?
Well, I was going to say the furthest back I could go to is when I was 5 years old. I can't go back 50, 60 years ago because I wasn't born at that time, but I could go back about 23 years or so. So it definitely, all started back when I was 5 years old. At 5 years old, I was diagnosed with a form of autism known as hyperlexia. And for those of you, audience members and viewers who are currently listening in, who might not be as familiar with hyperlexia, hyperlexia is characterized by someone's ability to read at such a very high level. Like, for example, when I was in kindergarten, my parents noticed that I was reading words equivalent to a fifth grader. They were just absolutely in shock. They couldn't believe that I was reading big words at such a high level. And so they decided to take it up a notch where they said, well, if he's reading at such a high level, he's able to comprehend what he was reading. So then they started asking me these questions where they asked me, hey, Jason, what does this particular word or phrase mean? And very often I would come back and say, I don't know. I don't know. So hyperlexia involves someone's precocious ability to read at such a high level, but yet struggles with reading comprehension. And even though hyperlexia is involved with the Individuals with Disabilities Act, which I know was signed by former President George Herbert Walker Bush, and then expanded on by his son, our 43rd president, George W. Bush. Some people know about hyperlexia and some don't know about it. And I am definitely here to help to spread awareness about hyperlexia. And I have to tell you, Kim and Claudia, over the course of, my experiences with hyperlexia in elementary school, my teachers, unfortunately, were not very supportive of my skill sets and abilities. I often struggled a lot because they never really showed me the time nor the effort that I needed in order to thrive both personally, mentally, emotionally, and even physically in the classroom. And, I had this one teacher who wrote a completely wrong evaluation about my skill set levels and my abilities. That when I transitioned on to middle school, my poor middle school teachers, including my learning support teacher, took a look at that paper and said, who is this kid? This isn't Jason at all. This is a totally different kid that they just wrote about. So, so it was very difficult for me in elementary school. But then when I transitioned on to middle school, my middle school teachers helped me to see that hyperlexia was a very tiny thing. And they sat me down, they saw that I struggled with reading comprehension, they worked with me, and they actually got me introduced to STEM, which was very fascinating. And STEM, for those of you that might not be as familiar with the acronym, that primarily stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And they're including the A, the arts, in as well. For those of you that are musically inclined, I'm musically inclined. I'm a singer and a clarinet player as well. They're definitely incorporating STEAM into it, which is wonderful. So, but my middle school teachers, they helped me to see that by getting introduced to STEM or STEAM, it was very hands-on, which I really appreciated because, I learn best through visually. And I know that everybody learns in different ways and at different rates. However, some people might not know that. And again, I'm trying to spread awareness of that. And it's important for people to be aware. But I like the concept of being a scientist. And I really enjoyed, trying to figure things out and trying to critically think my way in terms of solving a problem. Because the traditional method of, rote memorization through the use of a textbook, that doesn't work anymore. Technology has advanced so much over these last several decades that it's very important that we introduce our next generation of students to hands-on learning, especially through technology. But thanks to my middle school teachers, they helped me to discover hidden talents that I never even knew I possessed. I discovered I had an eidetic memory, which helped me through studying, which allowed me to memorize some complex, STEM terms for quizzes and tests. In addition to that, they helped me to discover that I am very talented in music as well, and I'm very good at motivational speaking and, acting as well. And they helped me to see, Kim and Claudia, most importantly, that I wanted to express to your audience, that hyperlexia is not a disability. It is, in fact, a superpower. And that's definitely something I wanted to express to anybody out there who's listening, that if you have a disability, there's no such thing as that. Dis is often negative, and I am trying to change society's overall perception of someone who they might look at and they might think they have a disability. Look, just because I might, read a little bit slow or it takes me some time to comprehend, that doesn't mean that I'm not important, right? It's, all of the positives that I have as a result of my experiences have pretty much outweighed hyperlexia. So everybody has a gift, everybody has a superpower, and it's important to harness that. So I just wanted to thank my middle school teachers for helping me to recognize and understand that hyperlexia is a superpower, not a disability.
That's wonderful.
I I wrote down a few things while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I got lots of questions, and um, I want to ask you very soon what advice you would give to parents and teachers so that they can help identify and nurture those superpowers. Um, but I also feel like we've got a golden opportunity here, and I don't know why it just came to me to talk to someone who's on the other side of every we so often we talk to therapists, we talk to parents, we speak to teachers, but we don't get to speak a lot to the kids. I mean, formerly known as kids. I mean, you're like mid 20s, 30s, I'm assuming now.
I'm mid 20s, so I'm 28 to be
Yeah.
exact. So I'm going to enjoy it now before I get to 30.
And so, so I what when you were 5 and you were reading those big words, why, how did it come to you? Like, did you just, were you attracted to books or attracted to letters? Did you see things like, can you tell what it was that drew you to words?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kim. I would say, in terms of what drew me to words, I know especially with hyperlexia, there's a big fascination for individuals with hyperlexia, and they're very fascinated with letters, numbers, and then, also visual aids as well. So I was definitely someone, who was immediately hooked. And I think primarily it was because of the fact that for the letters, for example, of the alphabet, they each had a unique shape and they each had a unique visual, which, really drew me in to them and to know, what exactly they were. And because of the fact that I was able to, look at the letter and then see eventually with my eidetic memory what it actually stood for and what it represented, that later translated into the eidetic memory, which I didn't know I knew I had until middle school. So I think it was because of that, and because of the fact too that with books in general, I'm definitely an adventure guy. So I like mysteries, and I think a very popular book I remember reading in elementary school, Kim and Claudia, you might know this. It's Magic Treehouse. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it
You
was
got it.
a
Yeah.
very popular, book series where it involved kids who were tasked with a mystery. I think they were given like a card or something like that somewhere. I don't exactly know. But what happened was they went up into their treehouse with the task. The treehouse spun around like a tornado, and then it would transport them to some place where they would have to be able to solve a puzzle. And it was very fascinating because it involved like mystery, it involved collaboration as well. So again, I was definitely hooked on that series. I remember reading that all the time, and for the times that there were power readers, I remember my elementary school did that, where I think you had to read like 21 books or something like that, a marking period. And I was definitely a power reader a few times, which was great. That was definitely like my series. So in relation to the question in terms of being fascinated with letters, words, and then also symbols as well, besides the shape, but then if you add in the adventure aspect and the mystery aspect, then I was definitely hooked with that.
Lottie, what are your thoughts on this fascination with the shape of letters and anchoring that with adventure when maybe you start with lower self-awareness or how
Yeah, well,
how do
in
you
fact, yeah, I was gonna ask Jason about any issue. Did you have any sensory processing issue, which is what we see a lot in children on the spectrum or with ADHD? Because you definitely have a beautiful mental image, which is also rare. So, and you're also a musician, so your auditory processing must be pretty fabulous. So, anything that was annoying you, like tactile or visual, you were fascinated and you knew what to do with your excellence. But what else? Was there something that annoyed you?
Yes, well, Claudia, that's a great question. I think one of the big things that annoyed me the most was, in elementary school, even though I was able to process, words or read words at such a high level, it took me some time to be able to comprehend what they meant. And, I was often a slow, but, very proficient reader. And, even though I struggled with, reading comprehension, what was difficult was that some of my other classmates were not struggling with reading comprehension. They were able to read words and they were able to understand exactly what was mentioned in the book. Whereas for me, I had to go back just to reread maybe once or twice and, maybe even three times at first. But then on top of, adding in with my elementary school teachers, not being very supportive of my skill sets and abilities, that's what made it even more challenging and frustrating because of the fact that, I wasn't getting the support. I wasn't getting the resources that were needed. I think I had two good elementary school teachers, the rest, not so good. So, it was the combination of those things that, impacted my ability to, discover that, I had a strength with reading. And because of some of the struggles that I had early on in elementary school, I remember telling my parents that, I'm a stupid reader. I'm never going to read a book
Oh,
again. And so, and I just, I look back on that experience and I just, I reflected on that, how far I've come. But it just goes to show you, once you have the support and once you have the mentality, then, you could really go a long way. But to answer your question there, that's with my sensory processing issues that I had in terms of comprehending what I was reading, and on top of the lack of support that I had, that's why I struggled.
yeah,
Do you?
it's fascinating. I'm working with a little girl who's 4 and is able to read and is doing math and is basically 4 years ahead of her peers, but she has more difficulty with making friends. She had a poor mental image, like being able to see things before they happen, to imagine. And I usually teach parents to teach the alphabet in a very different way so that we connect other parts of the brain than just the visual information, because you are so clear on the drawing, the shape of letters was something that you really just absorbed and were really proficient with. So, in fact, I had today a meeting with parents, and I taught them how to use multisensory processing for the alphabet, because they were absolutely certain that their kid is able, like that little girl, she knew her alphabet. But really, it's not enough. And you're telling us there is a meaning to it. So what I do with those families, I tell them, okay, if we're talking about the letter O, first we do phonetic as well as the shape, because of what you're explaining. People learn so differently. So it's good to have all the aspects of learning. So I have them, for example, smell orange, then look at an image of orange, then touch an orange. And so gradually the letter O is connected to different parts of the brain. And that is helping in the multiple learnings that maybe are easy for that area, but so difficult with others. So building connections in the brain that will then be used for the other types of learning. So it's really fascinating to listen to you, because you're an adult telling us how it happened. So um, hopefully multisensory, where if, for the listeners, involving other senses as they are teaching their kid who knows very well about one aspect of things, could be helpful. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, well, Claudia, I was going to say I appreciate you going into depth in terms of how you've been working with parents and showing them the phonetics aspect, like you've been saying. And I think with smelling like an orange and like even showcasing a picture as well. that really connects to the individual even more, because then another thing to add on is there has to be a purpose behind it. Why are we learning this, and how is it going to benefit me? I think that's definitely something that is often complex in terms of teaching today. Because students often ask, why are we learning this? Like, for example, math. I hear it all the time that I'm not very good at math. I hate it. What am I going to do with this? And it's important to like have a purpose behind it. And I love the fact that you are including a nice visual aspect. It's a great hands-on aspect as well. And like you said, that really connects parts of the brain, because when I started to get introduced to adventure as well, that just showcased so many connections. And I realized that I was starting to find out, my identity and what I was passionate about. So I just wanted to applaud you for that. I think it's great. I think we definitely need to spread more awareness about that. And by incorporating like purpose into our learning, then I think the next generation of learners will really be able to go even further.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There is another aspect of your talents, which is the music. We use also music a lot, and with mandability therapy to help kids or adults. We're listening to orchestral music. We're not focused specifically on classical, but it has to be beautiful and harmonious. So kids who are very, very busy, have difficulty to sit or focus on something, are able to just be mesmerized by the beauty of sounds or the beauty of art, like what I have behind me. So art and music are really crucial, and you just blossomed into music. How did it start? Did it start with just your parents were playing music and you got
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
fascinated? How did tell us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe I'll go actually back, even further when I was a baby, since I was born in 1996. So I remember, I think when I was a baby, now I don't remember this, my mom told me this story, but there were some instances in terms of when I was getting my hair cut. She would cut my hair, and there was a song that I would listen to, and I would, settle down. Otherwise, my mom wasn't going to be cutting my hair. And the song was actually from Celine Dion, one of the famous Canadian musicians. And I remember she played a song by Celine Dion, and it was for a couple of minutes. So my mom knew that she only had like probably 3, maybe 4 minutes to cut my hair. Otherwise, that was it. So,
Wow.
but what was definitely nice about Celine Dion, especially, was the fact that her music and like her style of music was very calming. Her voice was very pleasant. So that was a start in terms of helping me to relax and like settle down and just kind of unwind. Being able to hear such sweet tunes like Celine Dion, that really helped in terms of my focus. And then I think,
Okay.
growing up later on, when I struggled with anxiety, especially, what was nice was whenever I started listening to the sounds of a river at a beach, just those calming waves really helped me to relax and to just, take a breather, and to help with my anxiety even further, because I actually, believe it or not, nowadays listen to ocean waves and music when I sleep. So it's not music that gets you up and gets you singing, but still it's nice and relaxing. And that I found to help me to get a good night's sleep. It calms my brain patterns and my breathing patterns, especially when I'm anxious. So over time, by listening to those types of songs, and also even doing guided meditation as well, that has really helped with my anxiety, and I'm able to handle situations that might be complex throughout my lifetime.
That's great that you felt it and you knew it, and your mom knew it. So I'll bring the neuroscience little addition to that. It's typical, normal, because when we listen to beautiful music, to harmonious music, or to sounds that are familiar, and even mom's voice, our brain releases serotonin. And serotonin is the calming component in our lives, in our brain. So we can definitely tell people who are listening, if they have difficulty with sleep, they should follow your suggestion and what you're doing already, which is listening to beautiful sounds. And yeah, being Canadian, I totally agree with Celine Dion.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I know definitely Celine Dion over the last, several years. As a side note, she's been through a lot, and I've, felt sorry for her and for her diagnosis that she's had. But she's had a remarkable career, and again, her voice is very soothing, in my opinion. I know I can't speak on behalf of everybody. There might be somebody out there that might not be as fond of Celine Dion, but it's
Too
just,
bad for them.
right. I mean, it's, everybody's different, but, at the same time, when I was little and, that she helped me, to settle down. So that was just my story.
Well, hopefully a lot of people are going to follow your example.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'm definitely here. Like I said, as Kim mentioned, in my introduction, I'm definitely a mentor, and I want to inspire the next generation to pursue, big and bold opportunities, and I especially want to be an astronaut one day, which I'm looking forward to as well.
Wow.
I do you remember what it felt like when the first person treated you as a superhuman rather than a disabled kid? The first time somebody said, "Oh, hang on a minute, you can do this? Hang on a minute, maybe if we do this and this, then all of a sudden," do you remember what it felt like? Or did it feel special to you? Or was it just the grown-ups having some conversations about you and you didn't really care what they were thinking?
Right. Kim, that's a wonderful question. So I do have to say that, when my middle school teachers helped me to recognize and see that there's so much that can be done with hyperlexia, and that, the struggle with reading comprehension was just a very tiny thing, it made me feel valued. It made me feel important. But then also, as a big thing, it was a huge blessing, because, to be honest with you, from my experiences that I had, in elementary school, where, I only had two good teachers and the rest, not so much, from the wrong evaluation that was pretty much written from one of my teachers in elementary school. I just felt like I didn't belong. Like I was just, somebody who was considered to be invisible, like even though I was present. And I'm just kind of thinking, what exactly is my purpose of being here? But with someone, recognizing my gifts and recognizing my talents, like my middle school teachers, I got, very emotional, and I'm starting to get a little misty eyed now as I'm talking about it, but it's very important and it's very meaningful. I just, I thank them so much, because, if I didn't have, that support and, that encouragement, especially, from middle school on up, then to be honest, I'm not sure where I would be today. I'm sure I would have found a way, but I've heard of instances where there have been parents who have pulled their kids out of school. Particularly in the public school. I know someone at my work at SSAI who has autism. I believe they're 16 years old, but one of the workers had to pull their son out because, again, they were not getting the support that was needed or required, which is awful. It's a huge shame. So, but they went to a different, cyber school. They're doing much better. But getting that support, it was just so heartwarming. And I finally felt like I belonged. And I finally was able to use my talents and my abilities to pursue such great and bold opportunities. And, despite some of the setbacks that I might have had, Kim and Claudia as well, sometimes I did want to express to your audience that sometimes, even though the experiences that I have had over the course of my lifetime, I struggled in elementary school, sometimes you may may potentially need to have those experiences in order to get to your true potential. And that's something, very important. If you're someone who wants to dream big and wants to go for it, you're going to face setbacks. It's not easy going from point A to point B, because otherwise everybody would do it. But in terms of my dream of, being an astronaut, I faced roadblocks, I faced setbacks, but as long as you have the determination, the skill, you surround yourself by like-minded people, then you're going to get there. So, and it's not going to be on your timetable. But you're going to get there. You are going to be successful, but you just have to keep going. And there were times where I cried, and I was alone by myself. But being alone as well, it was a great way for me to understand who I was and what dreams I wanted to pursue. So I just wanted to put that message out there too.
That's really amazing. And what I like is of that the gratitude that you know who has started to help you. And for us, with we work a lot with teachers in the classroom of special needs children, we know how many of them are ready to help, and sometimes they may not know how to help, but listening to you is just the road. All right, observe the child and be positive. It's just, and then you are the demonstration. I want also to mention somebody we love very much, who is Temple Grandin, and her discourse is always find the passion and then help the kid follow the passion, and there will be success and no sadness, like you expressed you had some.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I loved how you mentioned about, Temple Grandin as well. I've read her book and I've watched, her movie and about her and her story. It was, very sad to see, because I know she was picked on, she was bullied because of, autism. And, but at the same time, uh, she persevered, once she got the support, she did the things that, worked best for her. And, something else I wanted to, bring to your audience as well. There's all this talk as well about, blending in to society. And, for me, I don't see how we all could blend into society. I mean, what exactly does that mean? Because if we're blending into society, that means that we're all the same. That we all think alike and that we all have the same aspirations. And no, that is not true whatsoever. Each and every single one of us are born, on this planet with a given purpose and a given dream and, a given skill set. And it's important that we harness that. But, in terms of, blending into society, I just want to encourage your audience and your viewers that if you're hearing that you need to blend into society, yeah, that's really going to take away from your gift and your passion. And I think that often distracts, the younger generation, and especially those like in the classroom who are saying, you have to blend into society. I don't think that's true whatsoever, because everybody has different dreams and aspirations. And, if we were to be like a chameleon, let's say, where they blend into the surroundings to protect themselves from any predators that they have, well, then that'd be a different conversation. But everybody's here, for a purpose and a mission. We've got to learn to express that, and then we'll definitely go a longer way.
So
Yeah.
to go back with, to what Claudia was saying and to what you're to you're saying, what do you think is the one piece of advice? I mean, this is the most important part of the podcast almost, I think. What advice would you give to parents who want to give a superpower to their child, or to the teachers who are there and who are called to help students thrive and fulfill their potential? So then identifying a superpower in a child who's typically considered less abled, that's sort of flipping the paradigm. How is it simple?
But believe it or not, Kim and Claudia, in relation to that question, it is simple, yes, but it can be difficult to implement. And I'll tell you the solution, or the way that parents and, also teachers can, really look at their children in the classroom or at home, and it's very simple to implement.
Hmm.
One of the things that I would encourage the parents and teachers who are listening is really encourage your child in school or at home to use their imagination. Their imagination is very, very powerful. And there's this one quote that I remember Albert Einstein said, "Your imagination is everything, and it's the preview to life's coming attractions." And if you think about that, that's a pretty true statement, because in relation to your imagination, some of those thoughts and ideas that come inside your head, they specifically come from God. Because God, again, has put you on this earth for a significant purpose, for a vision, and also for a reason that He values you. And whatever comes into your imagination, then it's very important to act on it. For example, if there's like a student, who's very passionate about wanting to be an airplane pilot, what you as parents and teachers should do is you should be talking to the child about how cool it is to be a pilot, and where you could go. You could go internationally, you could go to the States. There's so many different cool places out there. But if you really teach them about all the good things that a pilot can do, well, then maybe they're going to be encouraged to go to math, to go to science, to learn engineering, to do all of those key things. Because they want to be a pilot. And in relation to that, if somebody also wants to be like an astronaut, like myself, then what you would have to do is you'd have to talk to them about, all the cool places you could go. You could go to the moon or potentially Mars. I know there's this overall talk about going to Mars next. All these great space exploration companies that are out there. That are promoting, going to Mars as well. I know my company does some great work in terms of these great missions that are out there as well. So, but by, encouraging others to, follow their imagination, that makes all the difference. But in relation to it, you also have to encourage the next generation to write their vision and make it plain. That is actually something that is in the Bible. That is from, God. And I would encourage everybody to just write down your vision. And this is actually something from the Bible. But once you write down your vision and you make it plain, then what's going to happen is you're going to run to that vision. And even though it will tarry, meaning, take a long time, for surely it will come at an appointed time. That is also key. So as long as you write your vision down and as long as you're patient, it's not going to come on your timetable. It's going to come on God's timetable. His timing is perfect. So, you just have to be patient. You have to enjoy the journey. But then most importantly, don't get distracted by all the noise. With social media that's out there, and especially with all the advances in technology, as good as it has been, the problem is that you sometimes get sucked into something and, you can get distracted. So, and especially from what you see like on the news as well, they're talking about the war that's going on in Russia and Ukraine and also, Israel in the Middle East. Despite all the negativity that's out there, what you really need to do is you really need to not get distracted. Don't get sucked into all of that. But, really spend some time by yourself, really get to know your skill sets and your abilities, keep your visions to yourself, but only, also surround yourself by like-minded people and tell them, don't tell, everybody that because they might not see it. So if you do those couple of things, then you're really going to encourage them to go to the next level. And I got to tell you, after writing things down, you will be amazed in terms of what God will do for you. And, you'll just have to like cross it off your list after every single year. I've crossed things off my list as well. And I just read the vision every day and every night. So by doing that and hearing what the next generation has to say, then they will really go far. So I would definitely encourage those tips because then you will definitely be successful.
Oh, that's a
What a perfect
wonderful
way to
plan.
end, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claudia, I spoke at the
No.
same time as you.
That's
Do that a lot. Thank you, Jason, for helping us understand what it's like to be you and for the powerful words of encouragement. In behalf of our audience, thank you again. And to our audience, see you guys next week.
Bye.